What's going on, everybody? This is episode 792 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. And we're going to talk, once again, both teams and see how they're doing. Pretty much it's all about the quarterback right now. The quarterback situation during the offseason is not necessarily up in the air when it comes to the Falcons, but when you look at the Georgia Southern Eagles, it is a real battle. And it's good to see that you have a real battle going on in Georgia Southern the last 2 years. We haven't had that. So we're going to talk about that. But first, the Falcons go out to talk or see Micheal Penix go all the way to Seattle. I think that's very interesting because you already know what we have with Kirk Cousins here. And you know that there's a little bit of question marks because of Achilles. And the last time I saw I heard about the top brass of the Falcons going to see somebody, they end up getting Bijan Robinson. And the thing about that is we kind of needed that type of dynamic at offense. It's kind of debatable. Do you need a Micheal Penix? Will you take Penix at 8? I mean, all signs are kind of pointing to that if, with them going out to see Penix all the way across the country. So, what does that mean? We're going to talk about that as well. So if this is your first time here, welcome. I can be found on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I haven't been updating the website. If you have been on firstandframerates.com, I haven't been updating the website. I am debating if I'm going to keep the website. I know the domain is, for the most part, it's still my domain for the most part, but I don't know if I should keep it. I'm debating because it's just so much going on right now with just First and Frame Rates or whatever, and how I want to delineate or how I want to line up this entire situation with the podcast. I may want to keep it on the podcast level, but we'll see. So if you've been over there and if something's going on, that's what it is. And also, I could be found on X at VF Baller. You can follow me over there. If you want to support the show, CashApp and PayPal links are below. So enough about all of that. I talked about that like crazy. Do we need another quarterback? Kirk Cousins, Taylor Heineke, Micheal Penix. If they're going out there to see him, do they really need to get him this early? What is the big deal about this? Well, from my standpoint, from what I'm taking from it, is it's a very high possibility that they take him at 8 because I will be surprised if he'll still be there at 43. Even with all the injuries, all the other things that he's been going through in college, he's still a very viable quarterback. And if he has to stay a year or two behind Kirk Cousins, it's kind of going to be somewhat of an Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation. Not necessarily the talent per se, but the structure and how things played out. And you also have to understand that with the quarterback situation, it is a very important position. You want to have that type of position, intact and stable and ready to go. You don't want to be in a situation where if Kirk Cousins go down, do you really want to put the situation in Taylor Heineke's hands? We kind of saw what happened last year with that. And do you bring somebody else in, another veteran? I'm not sure about that either. But I from what I've seen or what I've heard, they already said that they want to add a third quarterback. Fontenot and Morris, they said they want to add a third quarterback, and bringing Micheal Penix in, even if it is at number 8, it is, it's going to be a high profile move. I mean, people who get drafted this high are pretty much tend to play right away. And I know that's not going to be the case, at least for this season, unless, like I said, unless something happens, he goes, Kirk Cousins go down or whatever the case may be. But I do feel like this would just be a stability move. People always talk about pass rush. I'm a big fan of pass rush. I don't mind going out and getting Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Alatu. I don't mind getting any of those guys, but it's kind of like up in the air now. I don't know what they're doing, especially after this. They're going out there to see Micheal Penix, and they're going to work him out and talk to him. They got a number 8 pick, and Micheal Penix, more likely, he's going to be there at number 8. So with that being said, it's kind of lining up like that. You got 2.5, maybe 3 weeks left until, 2.5 weeks left until the draft. It's starting to kind of line up like that. And I would not be surprised if they just go ahead and take a Micheal Penix and do Something else later in the draft as far as addressing pass rush. Um, Maybe even receiver. They may not even talk about pass rush until late, because I will also say this. Even though I feel like they need a pass rush, and I'll be the first one to tell you that they need pass rush, and for the most part, I would think that it would be a priority. But what we already have on the team, and there's also rumblings that Calais Campbell could be coming back, and I think we have a pretty decent, front seven, especially for the 3-4 that we're supposed to be trying to run. I think the front seven is actually pretty decent. I mean, if you really look at what they did last year, they upped their game up from 2022. They did a pretty good job. So with a new defensive coordinator in here, do you build on that? Do you make that better? I'm a little worried and skeptical about it, because Jimmy Lake, yeah, I mean, I know what he's talking about. He's talking a good game, but you kind of knew what you had when we had the last defensive coordinator in it. We knew what he was capable of doing, and he done some good things up front. Not so much at the end of the game when we had to hold the line or whatever. It was a different story, but for the most part, the defense did improve a little bit, and can you build on that? I mean, I'm pretty sure they're gonna bring in some defensive pieces, but that's where Terry Fontenot comes in. Terry Fontenot's gonna come in and actually find some talent that may surpass what Dallas Turner, Jared Verse can do. Because I mean, in some cases, some of your best pass rushers that end up, being, 2-3 years or maybe a year later down the line, they weren't picked in the first round. A lot of those guys, like, look at Danielle Hunter. A lot of people wanted Danielle Hunter. You do realize he was like a 3rd round pick, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it is not an exact science on any of these players. Even Micheal Penix. I mean, you look at Kirk Cousins. He's a sought after free agent at the time. Kurt was a 4th? It was like a 4th round pick or something. Like, him and RG3 came out at the same time, but he was like a 4th round pick. And you see how that played out. So it's like people sit here and they will look down at a certain draft pick, and I get it. I mean, look at Desmond Ridder. I mean, I don't think that necessarily is an indictment on his game. I do think he was, put in a bad situation, but some of those throws that he made were like really bad. They were real bad. So it's like you look at guys with those draft picks and where they were slotted and when they came in, you kind of understand, like, all right, some players are there, some players are not. It's just based on who's there and what they can do. And at the end of the day, we may find a pass rusher that's actually that viable that's later on in the draft. So with that being said, I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out with Micheal Penix. Because I don't think if they don't pick him at 8, they're not going to get him at all. So you don't take this flight all the way out to Seattle not to think that you're going to take him at 8. There's something brewing here. Now, what will happen? Who knows? My gut feeling is this may be a Bijan Robinson situation all over again, and they're going to end up getting Penix. And if they do pick Micheal Penix, and you're just going to see what else they're going to do later in the draft as far as defense, because I think the offense is good. I think the offense is tight. You may want to get another receiver. I get it. Now, as far as receivers go, you definitely could get one of them in 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. You can definitely do that. There's a lot of receivers out here that are mad talented that would be a good fit for the Falcons. That's not necessarily an issue. But as far as everything else, you're going to have to go defense if you go Micheal Penix first. You go with him, you may get a receiver, and everything else I would think would be defense. It just has to be, because it's not the fact that we necessarily need things on defense, but it's just the fact that the offense is just our offense is like really stacked. You know what I mean? It's really stacked. So it's like we don't really need players, but it's just going to be interesting to see, what's going to happen. So with that being said, we're going to jump to the next topic right here. Y'all let me know what y'all think about Micheal Penix and possibly being picked up by the Falcons. They're going all the way out to Seattle. Interesting. Georgia Southern quarterback situation is a good one, in my opinion. You don't really know who's going to be the quarterback. Dexter, comes in from Indiana. He's coming in, Georgia Southern. He's showing out. You also have rumblings of David Dallas. He's finally healthy and he's showing what he can do. And also you got JC French. So you got these three guys that everybody's rumbling about. Every time I look on social media, these three guys that they're talking about, what they're going to do, what they're going to do. Are they going? One of these guys going to be QB1? They're looking really good in practice right now, and it's a great problem to have. My personal pick, Colton Fitzgerald. I haven't heard anything, and it's kind of disappointing. But hey, look, I'm just a guy behind the microphone. I only root for the guys that I like, and you know, and that's the guy that I wanted to see, but. We'll see how it plays out because I'm not sure at this point. Nevertheless, all three of these guys, even Colton and even Tyler Budge, we were talking about him too, but you got a handful of guys here that are ready to go, in my opinion. I think any of these guys could probably play the position. I feel like there's been some type of mystique around what's going on with the quarterback situation at Georgia Southern. You look at the last two quarterbacks we had. Was it a situation where they were forced to play or they had to play, or these are the guys, these were the best that we had? I tend not to believe that they were the best situations that we was in. The Kyle Van Treese situation, I can believe that was probably the case. Not so much about Davis Brin. I do feel like that the other quarterbacks they had probably would have gave us a better chance. But this year is totally different. I mean, like I said, all the quarterbacks I just named, we're in a good position to like, hey, if one guy is the starter, the backups aren't going to be, that far off as a drop off. And this is one thing that I think, one thing that Coach Clay Helton really wanted. I think he really wanted to be in a situation where he has quarterbacks that can actually go at the drop of a dime. And now when when it shows too. If you really look at what he did when he first got on the scene, he brought in like 6 or 7 quarterbacks, along with Kyle Van Treese. I mean, when you, if you think about it, like Kyle Van Treese came in and yeah, he was the guy, but then again, you had Zach Roseman, you had a couple other guys. I can't remember all the names. Some of them are still here, but you had like 4 or 5 guys that could have, that was competing, and he still has that. But now this is a situation where all these guys are actually competing, and now it's like, all right, what do we have here? What are we going to be doing? What the scrimmages are going to be like? Because the scrimmages are actually, pretty good. People like, I didn't say scrimmage, but the practices are going to be, pretty good. I mean, as far as I'm hearing, like, with the scrimmage that they had recently, you had that, Dex is doing a good job. Dallas is looking good. And we already know what JC French can bring to the table. We saw him play a few times. And Tyler Budge is playing too. But Tyler Budge is, he's basically a rookie. I don't know. I'm not a rookie. He's a freshman out of North Carolina. But, I mean, do you have a situation where you bring in a freshman to start right away? I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, if he can get the job done, you know what I'm saying? If he can get the job done. So it's a situation where, hey, Georgia Southern is in a good space at quarterback, and this is one of the first times I could say that in a long time. And we've been not very quarterback laden in decades, right? Most of our quarterbacks just been pure athletic freaks. As far as quarterbacks that's throwing the ball, we never had a quarterback situation like this. Even, with, the first time, Coach Clay Helton brought, his aura, his staff, and his vibe to the team. You had, like I said, you had a few, quarterback situations that we looked like, okay, at least 2 or 3 of these guys could play, but we knew what the time it was. Now you're looking at this like, all right, what's going on? And with Ryan Applin as well, along with Ryan Applin, he knows good quarterback play. He was a quarterback in the Sun Belt. I mean, he's a pretty good one too. So he knows what's going on with he knows what's going on with the quarterback battles, and he knows that he will pick the right quarterback in the situation. Him and Coach Clay Helton will put it together to where now you're going to have good quarterback play out of whoever is going to be the quarterback. And even if you have the backup with the third string, you're going to have guys who are going to be ready to go and guys who are going to be ready to play. And it's just a very good situation to have. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to win football games, and just like with the Atlanta Falcons, if they do decide to get Micheal Penix, go behind the be behind Kirk Cousins, the quarterback situation is going to be good for both teams. And this is one thing I would like to say as well. The quarterback situation in general has always been the most important position, at least the last 10 to 15 years. And without a good quarterback or without a competent quarterback, you're not making things happen. You're not going to be winning football games. You know, we both saw that. We saw that with both teams last year. And you got to get the quarterback right. You got to. And this is probably why, even with all the quote-unquote needs that the Falcons have, they're still probably going to go after Micheal Penix at number 8. And even as well, this team is with Georgia Southern, how talented they are, it's good to have this type of problem where you don't have to worry about and rely on just one guy trying to do it all. Because the last 2 years, even with the Kyle Van Tree season, it kind of cost us maybe 1 or 2 games. And to be quite honest, it could be a matter of winning 8 to 9 games because of that. You know, and that goes for both teams. The Falcons were 7-10 the last few seasons. With better quarterback play, you probably could have flipped that record around. The quarterback play at Georgia Southern, not too bad in the first year with Kyle Van Treese. But with Davis Brin, you literally could have seen where we could have won at least 4 more games. Now, I totally believe that. But with that being said, man, let me know what you guys think, man. I think this is going to be a really good situation for both teams, and I can't wait to see how things play out for the spring game. That's when you would know who's probably going to be QB1 when the spring game comes. On top of that, by the time the spring game comes, you're probably going to get an idea what the Falcons are going to do at number 8. Will they get Penix? Will they try to move up back in the first round to get Penix? What will they do? It's going to be interesting, but we'll see. So if you like this commentary, the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think. I could be found on YouTube and Rumble, also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow me on X at VFBaller. CashApp and PayPal links are below. And I'm going to get up out of here. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy and y'all be blessed. Peace.